You live in a large town, with plenty of forestry integrated, separating chunks of housing and other buildings. You're walking alone late one night down a relatively bare street, often changing from trees to houses every half mile or so. With the occasional streetlight illuminating the otherwise lonesome road, you can't help but to walk at a rather moderate pace. The only sound accompanying your footsteps were the crinkling leaves and the distant churning of an endlessly working factory. That, and the other set of walking footsteps. You're suddenly yanked from your drifting thoughts to quickly look ahead of you, and then behind you, trying to locate the human source of the sounds. You manage to bring yourself to a complete halt curiously, only to find the accompanying noises stopping as well. Tentatively taking a few steps forward, you'd sigh shakily to find it was merely the echo of your own walking. You had come up to a small stretch of buildings on either side of you, mimicking a minor echo chamber of sorts. Being anxious to not seem like a creep in the middle of the night, you returned to your regular fast pace of walking down the road. Your mind would get caught up in itself again before long, only this time with the thoughts of imaginary monsters lurking in the night. Your heart rate would increase as you begun to walk faster, wanting nothing more than to just be home and in bed. The long day behind you had you utterly drained and devoid of any rationality. You fully knew that the constant skitterings in the trees were small woodland animals, amplified greatly by the dead leaves that coated the entire area. You didn't exactly hear them much ahead of you, or even behind you. It was always as if they were. Your eyes suddenly shot up and widened at the light post ahead of you, falling leaves quickly covering and uncovering little sections of the brightness, begging your eyes for their attention. You were getting anxious and nervous now. Knowing that there were perfectly reasonable explanations for all your little scares only made it worse. You felt the unshakable urge to start running constantly, trying to hold back as to not feel like a total spastic. It was the middle of the night, so it's not like anyone would see you anyway. But what if someone does see you sprinting full bore for absolutely no reason? You feel that aching anxiety just press harder and harder against you. You knew that if you begun running now, you wouldn't be able to stop until you were at your front door. And for what? The fear of a few crinkly leaves? The squirrels roaming between the trees? The horrendous monstrous face peeking out at you from the darkness, only to slink back away into the night? You sharply inhale and exhale as your legs swung wider and faster, but never into a full run. It was just your wild, exhausted imagination, your crazy mind creating some creature that doesn't exist in the woods, whose only purpose is to watch you. Your footsteps become audibly faster and louder against the pavement now, with your eyes frantically darting around to survey your surroundings at lightning speeds. Between the fear of being jumped by your imagination and looking demented by constantly looking over your shoulder, had you torn to pieces. It just wasn't sane. You kicked at the leaves carelessly as you trudged forward on your wild march. The echoing footsteps returned as well, as if to taunt and test you on this absolutely horrible night. The only thing that had given you any amount of relief was the notable absence of the moving sounds from the woods. The woods. Not buildings. You felt your skin go white as you sharply stopped walking. The footsteps behind you continued for a full second after you became paralyzed in fear, until you pegged the source to be less than a few steps away from you. Utterly frozen in place, you mustered the courage to gently crane your neck around in short, terrified bursts to visualize your indescribable follower. As you held your breath, you could hear so clearly its twisted voice speaking to you.
Let us start, runny. Here comes Brunny.